The cantina on Nexus Prime fell silent when Vexithalan walked through the door. Every alien in the room knew that name. Every species feared it. The Kethamori hunter stood 7 feet tall, his black scales catching the dim light. 4 arms moved, with deadly grace, each ending in claws that could tear through steel. His red eyes scanned the room like a predator choosing his next meal. Whispers followed him to the bar. A blue-skinned Zentari merchant quickly moved away from his seat. 2 insect-like hive workers clicked their mandibles in terror. Even the bartender, a tough Gorlian with armor-plated skin, served Vex's drink with shaking hands. 10,000 kills, someone whispered. 47 different species, added another voice. I heard he once hunted an entire family of crystal singers, took their voices as trophies. Vex ignored the talk. He had heard it all before. His reputation was built on facts, not stories. Every kill was recorded. Every trophy was earned. The Galaxy's most dangerous creatures had fallen to his claws, his weapons, his cunning. He was the apex predator that other apex predators feared. The cantina's main screen showed his latest achievement. 3 void stalkers, creatures that could phase through solid matter, lay dead on an asteroid mining station. The news reporter spoke in hushed tones about how impossible such a hunt should have been. Void stalkers were nearly extinct because they were so deadly. Now they were more extinct because of Vex. A fat Zalarian merchant approached his table. The creature's purple skin glistened with nervous sweat. Gold jewelry clinked as he walked. This was Gorlak Thes, known throughout the sector for his wealth and his cruelty. Great hunter, Gorlak said, bowing low. I have a proposition that will make you rich beyond imagination. Vex did not look up from his drink. I am already rich. Richer then, and famous, more famous than any hunter in galactic history. Now Vex raised his eyes. They glowed like burning coals in the cantina's dim light. Speak. Gorlak placed a datapad on the table. A new species has appeared in the outer rim. They call themselves humans, primitive, weak. No natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. They should be easy prey. Vex looked at the data. The images showed bipedal creatures with soft pink skin. They had tiny teeth, blunt fingernails, and fragile-looking bodies. Their technology was basic. Their weapons were simple projectile throwers. They lived short lives of less than 100 years. The bounty is 1 million credits per specimen, Gorlak continued. Alive preferred, but dead is acceptable. Vex studied the information for a long moment. Something about these humans made his ancient instincts whisper warnings. He could not explain why. They looked harmless. They seemed weak. Any hunter should be able to take them easily. But something felt wrong. Vex stood up, towering over the merchant. Find another hunter. He walked away, leaving Gorlak speechless and the entire cantina buzzing with shock. The galaxy's greatest predator had just refused what seemed like the easiest hunt of his career. But Vexthalan had not survived 10,000 kills by ignoring his instincts. Gorlak Thes ran after Vex through the crowded corridors of Nexus Prime. His short legs struggled to keep up with the hunter's long strides. Other aliens pressed against the walls as Vex passed. They knew better than to block his path. Wait, Gorlak called out. Please, great hunter, hear me out. Vex stopped at the entrance to the docking bay. He turned around slowly. His red eyes burned with annoyance. You waste my time, merchant. 2 million credits, Gorlak said quickly. Per specimen. That's more money than most hunters see in their entire lives. Money means nothing to the dead. Gorlak's purple skin turned darker. Dead? These are humans we're talking about. Look at them again. He held up the datapad with shaking hands. They have no claws, no fangs, no poison, no natural armor. They can't even see in the dark properly. Vex glanced at the human images once more. The creatures did look pathetic. One picture showed a human female holding a small human child. Both were smiling. Their faces showed no awareness of danger, no predator instincts, no survival skills. 3 million, Gorlak said desperately. Each. Why do you want them so badly? Vex asked. Gorlak looked around nervously. The docking bay was busy, but no one was close enough to hear. They're expanding into our territory. My people, the Zalarians, have claimed 12 systems in the Outer Rim. These humans just moved into 3 of them. They didn't ask permission. They didn't pay tribute, they just started building colonies. So fight them. We tried. They don't fight like normal species. They don't surrender when they're outgunned. They don't run when they're outnumbered. Our military commanders can't understand their tactics. Vex studied the merchant's face. Fear was written there. Real fear. Not fear of him, but fear of these soft-looking humans. What happened in your battles? Vex asked. We attacked their first colony with overwhelming force. We had better weapons, better ships, better everything, but they... Gorlak paused, remembering. They turned our own tactics against us. They used our rules of war to trap us. When we surrounded their settlement, they somehow surrounded us instead. We lost half our fleet. Now Vex was interested. Go on. They don't fight fair. They use tricks. They pretend to be weak, then strike when you're not ready. Our generals say they fight like demons. Vex looked at the human images again. The creatures still looked harmless, but Gorlak's story explained the warning whispers in his mind. Any species that could defeat the Zalarians was not as weak as they appeared. 4 million, Gorlak offered. Final price. Vex handed back the datapad. Find another hunter merchant. I hunt predators, not prey, and I have a feeling these humans are something else entirely. He walked toward his ship, leaving Gorlak standing alone in the docking bay. The merchant's desperate calls echoed behind him, but Vex did not turn back. His instincts had never failed him before. They would not fail him now. Zarketh watched his mentor's ship leave the docking bay. The young Kethmori hunter's silver scales shimmered with anger. At only 50 years old, he was still considered a child by his people's standards, but he had already made 30 kills. 30 different species had fallen to his claws and weapons. The great hunter grows weak, he muttered to himself. Zarketh had learned everything from Vex Thalan. How to track, how to hunt, how to kill. But now his teacher was refusing easy money. 4 million credits for hunting soft, weak creatures? It made no sense. He walked back to the cantina where Gorlak still sat, drinking alone. The merchant's face lit up when he saw the young hunter approach. You are Vexa Thalan's student, Gorlak said hopefully. I was, Zarketh replied. Now I work for myself. Tell me more about these humans. Gorlak quickly pulled out his datapad again. They live on a world called Haven's Rest. Only 50,000 of them. Most are farmers and scientists. They have one small security force with basic weapons. Zarketh studied the information. The human settlement looked peaceful. Children played in parks. Adults worked in fields growing food. Their defenses were minimal. A few guard towers. Some simple barriers. Nothing that could stop a real hunter. My master refuses this job because he fears his reputation, Zarketh said. He thinks hunting weak prey will make him look bad. But I have no such concerns. You'll take the contract? For 6 million per specimen, and I want half the money now. Gorlak's eyes widened. 6 million? That's... Take it or leave it. Find another hunter if you don't like my price. The merchant thought for a moment. Then he smiled. Deal. But I want proof of each kill. Zarketh grinned, showing his sharp teeth. You'll have your proof. Within an hour, Zarketh had gathered a hunting pack. 4 other young hunters who were eager to make their reputations. They met on his ship, studying maps of Haven's Rest. Look at this place, laughed Crix, a 2-headed saurian hunter. They don't even have proper walls around their city. Their weapons are ancient, added Voss, a mechanical hunter from the Cybernetic Collective. Chemical projectiles. We've faced worse from primitive tribes. How long do you think it will take? Asked Nira, a shadow-walking umbral. 1 day? 2? Zarketh looked at the peaceful images of human families. We'll be done before their sun sets. These creatures won't even know what hit them. The pack laughed and began checking their weapons. Plasma rifles, sonic disruptors, neural scramblers. Each hunter carried enough firepower to level a small city. Remember, Zarketh said, we want some alive. Dead specimens are worth less. Hunt smart, not angry. But as their ship jumped to hyperspace heading toward Haven's Rest, none of them noticed something important in the data files. Every human defeat of the Zilarians had started the same way. The humans had appeared weak and helpless right up until the moment they weren't. Zarketh's pack was about to learn why Vexthalin had survived 10,000 kills by trusting his instincts over easy targets. Zarketh's pack landed near a small research station 5 miles outside Haven's Rest. The building looked simple and peaceful. Large windows showed laboratories filled with scientific equipment. Gardens surrounded the structure, growing earth plants in alien soil. Perfect, Zarketh whispered into his comm. Isolated target, easy first kill. The hunters spread out around the building. Through the windows they could see a human female working alone at a computer. She had dark hair tied back and wore a white lab coat. She looked completely unaware of danger. I count only one target, reported Voss through the comm system. Good. We take her alive for questioning, Zarketh ordered. Find out about their defenses. The pack moved in. Crix used his claws to slice through the building's electronic locks. Nira phase-shifted through the walls to block escape routes. Voss disabled the communication systems with his cybernetic tools. They burst into the laboratory expecting screams and panic. Instead, the human woman looked up from her work with calm curiosity. Oh my, she said in perfect galactic standard. You must be Kethmori hunters. I'm Dr. Elena Rodriguez. I've been hoping to meet your species. Zarketh paused. This was not the reaction he expected. You are not afraid? Should I be? Elena asked, tilting her head. You're magnificent specimens. I've read about Kethmori biology in the xenobiology journals. Your four-armed structure is fascinating. And those scales, they're not just armor, are they? They're sensory organs, too. The hunters looked at each other in confusion. Their prey was studying them instead of running. We are here to capture you, Zarketh said slowly. I see. May I ask why? Elena remained perfectly calm. Are you scientists, too? Researchers studying human behavior? We are hunters, Crix growled, becoming impatient. You are prey. Elena nodded thoughtfully. Ah, a cultural misunderstanding then. You see, humans don't really do the whole predator-prey dynamic anymore. We prefer cooperation and mutual benefit. As she spoke, her hand moved slowly toward a panel on her desk. None of the hunters noticed. Your species has an interesting hunting culture, Elena continued. I read that Kethmori traditionally hunt alone. Working in packs is unusual for you, isn't it? What changed? Enough talk, Zarketh snapped. You come with us now. Elena pressed the panel. Immediately, alarms began ringing throughout the research station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Oh dear, she said, still calm. You've triggered our emergency protocols. My colleagues will be here soon. You called for help? Voss asked in disbelief. Of course, it's what humans do. We work together. Through the windows, the hunters could see vehicles approaching fast, human security forces with improvised weapons and coordinated movements. They surrounded the building within minutes. This was supposed to be easy, Nira hissed. The first shots came through the windows. Not advanced energy weapons, but simple projectiles that shattered glass and sparked off scales. But there were so many of them, coming from all directions. In the chaos that followed, 3 hunters fell, not to superior technology but to simple tactics and overwhelming teamwork. Elena Rodriguez smiled as she ducked behind her desk. Welcome to Earth, gentlemen. Zarketh's pack limped back to their ship under cover of darkness. 3 hunters were dead. The survivors were wounded and angry. What should have been an easy hunt had become a disaster. They fight like cowards, Crick snarled, bandaging a bullet, wound on his arm. Hiding behind walls, using projectile weapons from a distance. They work together too well, Nira added. I've never seen prey coordinate like that. It was like fighting a hive mind. Zarketh stared at the human settlement, through his ship's sensors. Haven's Rest was now fully alert. Guard towers had been reinforced. Patrol units moved in organized patterns. Emergency shelters had been opened for civilians. We need more hunters, he decided. Send word to the guild. Offer them shares of the bounty. Within 2 days, 12 more hunters arrived from across the sector. Veterans with hundreds of kills between them. They brought heavy weapons and military-grade equipment. This is overkill, said Thrax, a massive four-armed Goliath. Hunter. For 50,000 primitives? You didn't fight them, Zarketh replied. They're not like other prey species. The expanded pack began a systematic siege of Haven's Rest. They cut off supply routes and communications. They destroyed the humans, farming equipment, and water systems. Standard tactics to force surrender. But the humans didn't surrender. Instead, Mayor Jackson Hayes organized the defense. A former military officer from Earth's colonial wars, he had experience fighting guerrilla campaigns. He divided the population into teams: fighters, support staff, medics, and engineers. We're not leaving, he announced over the settlement's speakers. This is our home now. The humans didn't fight like any species the hunters had encountered before. They didn't mass their forces for big battles. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics. Small groups would strike at hunter positions, then disappear into the underground tunnel system they had quickly dug. They turned the hunters' own weapons against them. When Voss's cybernetic systems were damaged, human engineers studied the technology and built countermeasures. When the hunters used sonic disruptors, the humans created sound dampeners from local materials. They adapt too fast, Thrax complained after losing another team. Every time we change tactics, they change faster. The siege dragged on for weeks. The hunters had superior firepower, but the humans had something else. They never gave up. When one fighter fell, 2 more took their place. When equipment broke, they fixed it or built new versions. Children too young to fight served as messengers through the tunnels. Elderly humans who couldn't run became spotters and coordinators. Everyone contributed to the defense effort. I've hunted across 40 systems, said Krex, an insectoid tracker. I've never seen prey species fight this hard to protect their weak. Zarketh watched human medics risk their lives to save wounded civilians. He saw engineers working under fire to repair damaged shelters. He witnessed families sharing their last food with strangers. They don't just survive, he realized with growing unease. They get stronger when threatened. The easy hunt had become a war, and somehow the humans were winning. Marcus Chen crouched in the ruins of Haven's Rest's communication center. The 12-year-old boy had watched his parents die in the first week of the siege. Now he lived in the underground shelters with the other orphaned children. But Marcus was different. He understood technology better than most adults. Before the attack, he had been the youngest person ever accepted into the colony's engineering program. I can fix it, he whispered to himself, looking at the damaged transmitter. The hunters had destroyed the main communication array, but they had missed the emergency backup system hidden in the basement. Marcus had been working on it for days, using spare parts scavenged from destroyed buildings. Above ground, explosions shook the colony as the hunters continued their attack. In the shelters below, children cried while their mothers sang lullabies to keep them calm. The sound echoed through the tunnels, mixing with the distant noise of battle. Marcus connected the last wire and powered up the transmitter. The screen flickered to life. He had managed to boost the signal strength enough to reach nearby systems. This is Haven's Rest Colony, he spoke into the microphone. We are under attack by alien hunters. They have been trying to capture us for 6 weeks. We need help. He paused, listening to the children singing in the background. Their voices were sweet and innocent, untouched by the horror happening above their heads. We have lost many people, Marcus continued, but we will not surrender. This is our home. Please, if anyone receives this message, tell the galaxy what is happening here. The signal broadcast across subspace, reaching ships and stations throughout the sector. Most ignored it. Colonial distress calls were common in the outer rim, but one ship received the message clearly. Vex Thalin sat in his quarters reviewing hunting reports when the transmission came through his communication system. He almost deleted it automatically. Then he heard something that made him freeze. Children singing. The sound pierced through his ancient memories like a blade. Somewhere in the depths of his genetic code, something stirred. Something his people had buried long ago. He listened to the boy's brave words. Marcus Chen spoke without fear, only determination. The child sounded ready to fight and die for his people. But it was the singing that haunted Vex. Innocent voices raised in harmony while death stalked above. He had heard something like it before, in dreams that felt more like memories. Voices singing in the darkness while his ancestors' world burned. Computer, trace the source of this transmission, he commanded. Signal originates from Haven's Rest Colony. Grid reference 7742 Alpha. Current status shows active conflict zone. Vex studied the star charts. Haven's Rest was 3 days away at maximum speed. His protege Zarketh was there, leading the hunt that Vex had refused. Foolish child, Vex muttered. But he was not sure if he meant Marcus Chen or Zarketh. The singing continued in the background of the transmission. Children's voices, pure and trusting, believing that adults would protect them. Vex Thalin, the galaxy's most feared predator, made a decision that surprised even himself. He set course for Haven's Rest. Vex Thalin's ship emerged from hyperspace above Haven's Rest. The planet's surface showed the scars of 6 weeks of siege. Smoke rose from burning buildings. Crater marks dotted the landscape where hunter weapons had struck. But the human settlement still stood. Vex landed his ship near the hunter camp. Zarketh's pack had grown to 20 hunters, but they looked tired and frustrated. Their equipment was damaged. Their morale was low. Master, Zarketh ran to greet him, but stopped when he saw Vex's expression. You came to help us finish the hunt? I came to stop it, Vex replied coldly. The young hunter's silver scales darkened with anger. Stop it? These humans killed half my pack. They must pay for what they've done. What they've done? Vex looked at the burning colony. You attacked first, they only defended themselves. They're prey. It's our nature to hunt. Vex studied his former student. 6 weeks of fighting had changed Zarketh. His eyes burned with rage instead of the calculated focus of a true hunter. He had become savage, desperate. Call off the attack, Vex ordered. We leave now. No, Zarketh snarled. I will not run from weak prey. If you won't help, then stay out of my way. The younger hunter signaled his pack. They raised their weapons, pointing them at Vex. It was a challenge for leadership, hunter against hunter. But before the fight could begin, something unexpected happened. A group of humans approached under a white flag. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked in front, carrying a medical kit. Behind her came Mayor Hayes and several other colonists. We heard another ship land, Elena called out. Are there wounded among you? Zarketh laughed harshly. You think we need your help, Prey? I think you're living beings who might be hurt, Elena replied simply. That's enough. She walked directly toward Vex, ignoring the weapons pointed at her. Up close he could see that she was exhausted. Her clothes were torn and dirty, but her eyes held no fear, only concern. You're injured, she observed, noticing cuts on Vex's arms from his fight with Zarketh. Let me help. Vex stared at her, in amazement. Here was a creature whose people he had come to kill, offering medical aid to their enemy. It made no sense from a survival perspective. Why? He asked. Because you're bleeding, Elena said, as if it was obvious. Pain is pain, regardless of species. She began cleaning his wounds with gentle hands. Other humans moved among the hunter pack, offering water and medical supplies. Not all hunters accepted, but some did. Zarketh watched in fury as his pack, was divided. Some hunters pushed the humans away. Others allowed themselves to be helped. "This is madness," Zarketh screamed. "They're making us weak." But Vex understood now. The humans weren't making them weak. They were showing them something the Kethmori had forgotten long ago. They were showing them mercy. As Dr. Rodriguez bandaged his wounds, Vex's mind drifted into memories buried deep in his genetic code. Images flashed before his eyes like fragments of an ancient dream. His homeworld, Kethmor, thousands of years ago. But not the proud warrior planet it was today. This was different. His people were dying. The plague had come from space, carried by meteor fragments. It attacked the Kethmori nervous system, turning their greatest strength into weakness. Their forearms became useless. Their enhanced senses failed. Their predator instincts vanished. Millions died in the first year. The survivors huddled in caves, too weak to hunt, too sick to fight. The mighty Kethmori faced extinction. Then they came. Vex saw them in his ancestral memories. Small bipedal creatures with soft skin and gentle eyes. They had primitive technology and no natural weapons. They looked exactly like the humans now tending his wounds. "The Givers," he whispered, remembering the old name. These ancient humans had found the dying Kethmori by accident. Their exploration ship had detected the plague signals from orbit. Any sensible species would have fled to avoid contamination. Instead, they landed to help. The memory became clearer. Vex watched his ancestors through eyes passed down through generations. The Givers worked day and night to understand the plague. They shared their food with the starving Kethmori. They carried water to the sick. They sang soft songs to comfort the dying. Many Givers died from the plague themselves, but they kept working. After 2 years, they found a cure, not just a treatment, but a complete cure that made the Kethmori stronger than before. The plague that nearly destroyed them became the source of their enhanced abilities. The Givers asked for nothing in return. They simply smiled and prepared to leave. "Why help us?" young Kethmori had asked. "Because you needed help," the Givers replied. "That's enough." But not all Kethmori were grateful. Vex's memories turned dark. Some of his people saw the Givers' compassion as weakness. They believed such soft creatures would make other species weak too. A faction of warriors decided the galaxy would be better without them. The hunt began in secret. The same Givers who had saved the Kethmori were tracked across the stars. They fought bravely but never cruelly. Even when dying, they tried to help their attackers. Within a generation, the Givers were extinct. The Kethmori had destroyed their own saviors, and then they forgot. The memories were buried, considered shameful. The truth became legend, then myth, then nothing. But the genetic memories remained, hidden in their DNA. Instincts that screamed warnings when facing creatures like the Givers. Creatures like humans. Vex opened his eyes and looked at Dr. Rodriguez. She finished bandaging his arm with the same gentle care the Givers had shown. "His ancestors. You're just like them," he said softly. "Like who?" Elena asked. But Vex couldn't answer. How could he explain that humans were the children of the species his people had murdered? How could he tell her that the galaxy's greatest predators owed their existence to her ancestors' sacrifice? The memory crystal was complete now. The humans hadn't just returned to the stars. They had come home. Vex stood up slowly, his wounds properly bandaged for the first time in weeks. Around him, the hunter pack was divided. Some accepted human medical aid. Others refused and moved closer to Zarketh. "Enough!" Zarketh roared. "Master, you've gone." "Soft. These creatures have poisoned your mind." "They saved us once," Vex said quietly, "long ago when our people were dying." Lies. Kethmori history speaks of no such weakness. Because we buried the truth. We hunted our saviors to extinction and then forgot our shame. Zarketh's eyes blazed with fury. Even if that story was true, these are not the same species. They're just copies, weak copies. "Look around you." Vex gestured to the colony. 6 weeks you've hunted them. with 20 hunters and advanced weapons, yet they still stand. Because they hide like cowards. No, because they transform their hunters. Vex pointed to the hunters accepting human help. Thrax, the massive Goliath, sat quietly while a human child bandaged his hand. The little girl sang softly as she worked, the same lullabies Vex had heard in the distress signal. Watch her eyes, Vex told Zarketh. She knows Thrax could crush her with one hand, but she shows no fear. Only kindness. Thrax stared down at the child, his predator instincts confused by her gentle behavior. He had killed hundreds of beings across the galaxy, but this small human treated him like a friend. This is what makes them dangerous, Vex continued. Not their weapons or tactics, their ability to change us. I will not be changed, Zarketh declared. I challenge you for leadership of this pack. The traditional duel began immediately. Mentor against student, old hunter against young. They fought with claws and fangs, the ancient way of their people. But as they battled, something unprecedented happened. Human civilians threw themselves between the fighters and Zarketh's supporters. Stop, Elena shouted. No more fighting. Mayor Hayes stepped in front of a hunter's weapon. These are your people. Don't let anger destroy your pack. Marcus Chen, the boy who had sent the distress signal, ran directly toward Zarketh during the duel. The young hunter's claws were inches from Vex's throat when Marcus grabbed Zarketh's arm. Please don't hurt him, the boy cried. He came to help us. It was the stupidest, bravest thing anyone had ever done. A 12-year-old human child protecting a Kethmori hunter from another Kethmori hunter. Zarketh hesitated, staring at Marcus in shock. In that moment of confusion, Vex struck the winning blow. Half the pack immediately bowed to Vex. The other, half still loyal to Zarketh's savage ways, retreated to their ships. This isn't over, Zarketh snarled as he limped away. The guild will hear of your weakness. But Vex was no longer listening. He was watching Marcus Chen tend to wounds that Zarketh had given him during their fight. The boy showed no anger, only concern for an injured being, just like the Givers had done so long ago. 3 months later, Vex Thalin stood before the Galactic Hunters Guild on Nexus Prime. The Great Hall was packed with hunters from across the galaxy. Word had spread about the failed hunt on Haven's Rest. Everyone wanted to hear what the legendary predator had to say. I declare humans to be unhuntable, Vex announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. The crowd erupted in angry shouts and confused whispers. Gorlak Thess pushed forward from the audience. Impossible, the Zilarian merchant cried. They're weak, primitive. I've seen the data. You've seen their bodies, Vex replied calmly. You haven't seen their souls. He activated a holographic display showing footage from Haven's Rest. The images showed humans sharing food with wounded hunters, children singing to comfort enemies, Dr. Rodriguez treating injuries without asking which side the patients fought for. For 6 weeks, 20 skilled hunters attacked 50,000 humans, Vex continued. We had superior weapons, advanced technology, and tactical advantage, yet we failed. Because they fought dirty, someone shouted from the crowd. No, because they fought differently. Vex paused, letting his words sink in. They turned half my hunting pack into protectors, not through force or fear, but through kindness. The hall fell silent. This was not what anyone expected to hear from the galaxy's most feared predator. I have killed 10,000 beings across 47 species, Vex said. But I learned something on Haven's Rest. Humans don't just survive being hunted, they transform their hunters. He showed more footage. Thrax the Goliath hunter now lived peacefully in the human colony, teaching their children about galactic cultures. 3 other hunters had abandoned their old lives to help rebuild what they had destroyed. This is their true danger, Vex explained. Not their weapons or tactics, their ability to make enemies into friends, to turn predators into guardians. A young hunter in the audience laughed mockingly. You sound afraid of them, old one. Vex turned his burning red eyes toward the speaker. I am afraid of them. Any intelligent predator should be. They possess something more dangerous than claws or fangs. They have the power to change hearts. He gestured to the display one final time. It showed Marcus Chen, now helping former hunters learn human customs. The boy who had once sent a desperate plea for help now welcomed his former enemies as neighbors. Humans are not prey, Vex declared. They are the universe's greatest predators. They hunt the one thing we all carry, our capacity for cruelty, and they always win. The hall remained silent as Vex walked away. Behind him, the guild faced a choice. Continue hunting humans and risk being transformed by their dangerous compassion, or find new prey that wouldn't make them question everything they believed about strength and weakness. Many hunters chose to avoid human space entirely, but some, curious about this strange transformation, went to Haven's Rest to see for themselves. Most never left.